Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. As you can tell from today's title and thumbnail, we are going over my July 2026 wrap-up. I thought I did one for June, but I could not find it for the life of me. So I'm trying to be more consistent with this because it is something that I like doing, and I know it's a popular video style here on YouTube. So, and I want to jump on the bandwagon a little bit. I do want to say that the statistics I'm going to give the statistics. These are likely to change because I'm listening to an audiobook right now, and it's like wrong side for the calendar. It is currently Saturday the 25th, and I wanted to record this ahead of the ball because this upcoming week I'm going to be kind of busy, and then next weekend I'm still going to be kind of busy. So I wanted to jump on this ahead of the game. So I am listening to an audiobook, which I'm probably going to be able to finish at work. And also, like, depending on how many other audiobooks I can get through at work, the statistics and the averages might change a little bit. So I think that's something you can see in the Storygraph for other people's. I'm double checking this right now, but you can always go to my Storygraph and see what I've been reading. But let's see. Let's go to the community page. I'm just testing out one real quick. Okay, so if you were to go to my Storygraph page and then you'd be able to click on stats 2026, and then you'd be able to narrow it down to July if you wanted to see my more updated stats for July 2026. So that is something that is an option. Again, my Storygraph is linked down below in the description. So again, the only reason why I bring that up is because, like I said, this is likely to change. The number of books I've read is 12. It is likely to go up to 13 or maybe even 14, because I have been listening to quite a few more audiobooks at work. So that's why I wanted to throw that out there. But this is a pretty good look at my July, which is why I'm comfortable recording this now, even though we still have it's the 25th. We still have 6 more days of July, but I'm pretty comfortable, like I said, recording this now because this is a pretty good look at my July. And honestly, I think this has been one of my best months so far of 2026, if not my best month. And it's kind of funny saying that because of my average star rating, but even with that, it's this has been one of my best months so far of 2026. And my statistics are down below in the description, as well as the books that I read. And I'm also using the People link, the People ranking website, to rank the books that I read so far, at least 12 that I'll be talking about in this video, to rank those books. Or I actually already did it prior to recording this video, and then I'll show you the ranking process after the statistics, and then I'll show you, or I'll talk through the ranking. So it's going to be statistics, and then the ranking process, and then an overview of the ranking, where I'll talk a little bit more about the books. So, statistics time, because I think that's part of the joy of looking at an overview of the month with what you read and seeing and not just I like talking about books, which is why I have so many videos talking about books. But it's just I think having the statistics, including the statistics, rounds it out a little bit more of being okay, this is what this month looked like versus what last month looked like, and versus what next month will look like, and even versus what the whole year looks like. So with all that said, we're getting into the statistics. As I said, I read 12 books this year. My top 3 moods were emotional. I had 8 books that were emotional, four books that were tied for second place at four books were Funny and Adventurous. And then the third most read mood was Tense, and that was two books. Pacing, fast paced was 25% at three books, and then medium paced was the other nine books at 79%. I had no slow paced books this month, although maybe next month I'll have a slow paced book. We'll see. Page number, I didn't have any books that were 500 or more pages. And then 300 to 499 pages were 100% of the books that I had read physically, since I had 3 physical books. And all of those were between 300 to 499, and I had no books that were less than 300 pages. Audiobook length, I didn't have any books that were over 16 hours. And then I had 3 books that were between 8 hours and 15 hours and 59 minutes, so basically 16 hours. And then I had six books that were 8 hours or less. So that was my audiobook length. And then fiction versus nonfiction, I had 1 nonfiction book, and that was a poetry book. And then I had 11 books that were fiction, and that's 92%. 92% of the books were fiction, 8% was nonfiction. And then top 3 genres, I have in first place is fantasy, which is not a surprise. That was at 6 books. Literary, which was a little bit of a surprise, came in second place at 4 books. And then tied for third place was romance and historical with 3 books. And then the format, I didn't have any digital books, any ebooks. 25% of my books that I read were physical, were print books. And then that was the 3 books. And then audiobooks were the other 9 books that I read this month, and that was 75%. And then my average star rating was 3.95. And again, even though like I said closer to the beginning, even though my star rating was lower, was under 4 stars, it's still close enough to 4 stars, first off. And second off, it's even though it's under 4 stars, I still had a really great month. So, and it's also kind of funny because I had my 2 summer reading vlogs, which part 1 and part 2, which are coming out near the end of August, which were the books that I had read this month. But just with timing, with how I've already scheduled things out, it made more sense for those videos to go up at the end of August, which is why I made them summer reading vlogs. So, which is why I named them as generic summer reading vlogs rather than more specific. But anyway, with all of that said, we are going to do the ranking now. I'm going to show you the ranking, and then I am going to go through that ranking with you. Okay, so I'm going to go from least to most. And I was a little bit surprised with some of the ones near the bottom, but at the same time, looking back on this ranking, kind of having some time to sit with it, it made sense. It makes sense. So, like I said, I'm going to go from least to most, top to bottom to top. In 12th place was The Bookish Girls. Already laughing. The Bookish Girl's Guide to Meeting with a Werewolf by Lola Glass. I gave this one 3 stars. I had a good enough time with it. I did go into it a little bit blind, so forewarning spice. And part of the reason why I chose this one was because on Friday, I didn't have any, or the Friday before I'm recording this, the Friday, the 24th, I didn't have any audiobooks like lined up or that I was listening to, and I was just like, you know what, let me just find something. So I found this book, and then I found a poetry book and one other audiobook, which I did start listening to, and that's the audiobook that I might finish up before July is up. But I found this book, and then I listened to the poetry book, which is the nonfiction one. And like it fits here because it's like I didn't have a bad time with it, but it's like it's not my usual thing with romance, and I think it's a good popcorn read romance, where it's like if you need something quick and easy and a palate cleanser and you're okay with spice, this is good. And I think it worked for me in that sense, which I appreciated. So it's like I'm not mad at that I read this, but it fits in 12th place for me because honestly, like, I wouldn't have picked it up if the largest reason why I picked it up was because it was like I could just borrow it immediately. So it's like if I wouldn't have picked it up if there was a wait for it, like, and I wouldn't have picked it up anyway. Like if I'd seen it like in my local library or like at the bookstore, I wouldn't have picked it up. So it fits at 12th place. And then in 11th place is I See You've Called In Dead by John Kenny. I think I gave this one 3 stars as well. Okay, so backtracking a teensy bit. The Bookish Girl's Guide to Meeting with a Werewolf, that is about this girl, and she goes to this one town that's like, there's a lot of rumors swirling around this one town, this one area, that is like, oh, werewolves live here. So this one girl, the main character, she goes there trying to find a werewolf, and her friends are like, girl, you're kind of crazy, are you high? That kind of thing. And then she finds a werewolf, and she ends up going into what's called the hunt. The werewolf that she meets, he ends up hunting her, chasing her, like the meat hunt. And so it's just about that mating process. There is insta-love, it is spicy. And again, it was a good read, and it does what it needs to do. So it's like I'm not mad about that. But going back, in 11th place is I See You've Called In Dead by John Kenny. Again, I think I rated this one 3 stars. And this one is about this guy, and his ex-wife had emailed him. This isn't really a spoiler. Well, it's a little bit spoilery, but it adds to the plot. So, like, his ex-wife emails him saying her mother's passed away. This is her obituary, and he's an obituary writer. And if you want to come to her service, this is when it's at, and what time it's at, and where it's at. And that night he gets drunk and writes his own obituary and accidentally publishes it. And so then he gets terminated or suspended as an investigation takes place. And he, at his ex-wife's mother's wake, I think it was called, he meets this girl who attends wakes and funerals, and he starts joining her. And that's, hi Toddy, one of the bunnies just showed me. Hi buddy, do you want to come up? Toddy bear. And that's how he learns how to start living again, because he hadn't really been living, and he'd just been doing like the day-to-day normal stuff without really like enjoying anything. And this again fits in 11th place because it is a lit fic book. I guess it makes sense why literary was so high this month. And overall I did enjoy it. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad that I read it, and I think it has a lot of very good points and perspectives on how we live our lives day to day, from day to day basic stuff and in general, and the more specific stuff that's supposed to give our lives meaning and bring our lives joy, that kind of thing. So I think it does have some interesting takes on that and commentaries. It's just lit fic, like I've said, is not my usual genre. Contemporary fiction is not my usual genre. It's not something I gravitate towards. And kind of like with The Bookish Girl's Guide to Mating with a Werewolf, this one was available to borrow immediately, which is why I picked it up. So yeah. The next one, I'm kind of surprised this one is down so low, but again, thinking about it, it makes sense. And it's We Dance Upon Demons by Vaishnavi Patel. Now, I loved this book, but with like all the other books that I read this month, having this in 10th place, with all the other books that I read this month, having this in 10th place does make sense. And like I did really enjoy it. It has a lot of really great commentary. And in this one, I'll need to actually double check the description for this one. Just to We Dance. There it is. Okay. Let's see. Just to give you the blurb, from a galvanizing standalone contemporary fantasy following a burnt-out reproductive healthcare worker as she fights back against escalating attacks on her clinic, and it's a Planned Parenthood clinic, and the malevolent forces in hot pursuit of her newly acquired power. So that's what that is about. That's just like the blurb, because it covers so much in terms of that topic with Planned Parenthood and reproductive rights specifically for women and people who were born with female genitalia. So it's like like it has such good commentary about that, and I think it's something that everyone needs to read. It just, like I said, in comparison to the other 9 books on this list that came before it, this placing makes sense. And my top 10, like the top 10 for this month, really makes sense, and the ranking for them also really makes sense. So like I said, I had some time to sit on this ranking and kind of think about it. In 9th place, which I'm a little bit surprised by, but at the same time, like I've said, I'm gonna say this a few times. It makes sense. Pretty Boys Are Poisonous Poems by Megan Fox. Now, part of the reason why I picked this one up was because I see You've Called In Dead and The Bookish Girl's Guide to Mating with Werewolves is that I could borrow it immediately. And I listened to it as an audiobook. It was only like 40 minutes, give or take. And so it was like a really quick listen. And this had a lot of, like I said with We Dance Upon Demons and I See You've Called In Dead. With those ones, this also had some really good commentary on the social dynamics between men and women and the social dynamics of famous women and their interactions with the famous men around them and even just the common people. So I think this had a lot of really great commentary, and the quote that I chose for this one in my review, because in my reviews I usually choose a quote to start my review off with. I gave this one 3 stars, but the quote that I chose was, "Maybe the original sin was a man taking a woman for granted." And it's like, yes, that right there, that. And then We Dance Upon Demons, I realized I did not give you a ranking for that. I did not rank that one. So that was also what factored into the average star rating, because I felt like I couldn't rank it. I felt like I couldn't give it a star rating. Not rank. I felt like I couldn't rate it. So The next one in 8th place was Let Us Descend by Jessamine Ward, and this is about an enslaved woman, and she's lost contact with her mother, doesn't know if her mother's lived or has passed on, and she can connect with her ancestors and call out to them as needed. And so it's just trying to figure out a way to survive first off, and then maybe even potentially a way to escape if there is one. That was kind of like a bad description. I feel like I should have kept Storygraph open because I need to check the rating for this. But this one is in 8th place, I believe, and this one makes sense for 8th place. This is not something that I was like really questioning the placement for it. I gave this one 4 stars, and honestly, this one was like absolutely amazingly told, and I think I want to get the physical copy for it. It might be a little bit before I do get the physical copy for it, but I do want to get the physical copy for it because like it's such a powerful read, and again, another book that I think more people need to read. The seventh book is 7th place is The Princess Bride by William Goldman, and I give this one like 3 points something, I think 3.75, because it's like overall I did have a really good time with this book, and I think it's kind of like it's in the vein of it does what it's supposed to do as a story, and I had a good time with it, and I honestly highly recommend, if you can, getting the audiobook where Rob Reiner narrates it. He was the one who directed the movie and sadly passed away. And honestly, like I had such a good time with this read, and I rated it 3.75 stars because it didn't fully meet my expectations due to the movie. But like I said, it does what it's supposed to do. I would say this is a good children's fantasy story, a romance fantasy. This is a good children's romantasy. I'm in my romantasy era also. I'm in my romantasy era, which is just a surprise. There was like I read 2 in a row this month, and I loved them both, and I was just like, Jesus Christ. I'll talk about this. But The Princess Bride, You're Falling Buttercup, and I feel like this is a story pretty well known, but like the book is slightly different where she does it like she's not immediately like in love with Wesley, and it takes time for them to like he's immediately in love with her, he falls first, and then she falls harder. That kind of a deal. So to move on, the next one in 6th place is The Vanishing Cherry Blossoms Bookshop by Takuya Asakura. And this one I gave 4 stars. And I haven't read this series yet, but if you liked Before the Coffee Gets Cold, this is a good one to try to read because it's in that similar vein. So essentially, over 4 seasons, around when the cherry blossoms are blooming, and words are eluding me right now. The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop is like appears to someone who needs it, and you have these 4 different stories of people who are regretful or who are stuck at a certain point in their life and are trying to recall something or like connect back to something. So you have these 4 stories told over 4 different seasons, and it all connects back to the cherry blossoms. So that's what this book is about. That's all I'll say. This one I gave 4 stars to. I had a really good time with it, and I listened to it as an audiobook, which I think really helped me out. And this one also is literary fiction, but I did enjoy it because I feel like it's told in such a whimsical way and a fantastical way as well. Like I would say it's like literary fantasy, which I think helped me out. So next up, number 5. My top 5, all of these make sense. The next up is 5th place is The Shrouded Queen by Ashley Tropea. And there's a part of me that expected this to be higher, but with like my top 4 and my top 3 even, within that top 4, like, I don't think it would, like, really beat out any of those ones, really. So it's like it fits in my top 5. But in The Shrouded Queen, I gave this one 4.5 stars. I gave The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookstars 4 stars. I don't think I said that. But in The Shrouded Queen, 4 stars. That's my fifth place. It is going to be a romantasy duology set in or inspired by ancient Egyptian mythology. To give you just the blurb to kind of keep this quick. In the first book in this romantasy duology, inspired by ancient Egyptian mythology, a slave and a princess switch places during an enemy attack, igniting parallel journeys of love and survival. Now, I think for me, kind of what knocked it down a little bit for me as well was that, first off, there was an unnecessary death, which I wanted them to end up together. But of course he dies. And I think her reaction to it kind of did set me off a little bit, because it's it was also her reaction a little bit too, where it was on the one hand, her reaction was understandable given the circumstances that she was in, but at the same time, it's just I guess I was expecting a little bit more of a reaction, but at the same time, I can't fully blame her for her reaction, because like I said, understandable for the situation. And then also too, there was a plot line that it is revealed in the first book. But I guessed it so early on, I didn't know how or why, but I guessed it so early on. Excuse me. Because I remember thinking, there's one specific scene with Samira and Care. And I was just oh, I think Samira is XYZ. And as I kept listening to the audiobook, I was just okay, yeah, she is, because it was confirmed. And then I was okay, that's what happened. But it's not that it's bad to catch on to certain things, but it's I feel for certain plot points that are supposed to be a big reveal, it's when you can guess them so, I guessed it so early on. Even though that scene with Samira and Kier where I guessed it is a little bit into the book, but relatively speaking, in comparison to when that plot point is revealed, it is very early on, and it's when it's revealed so early, it's it takes the reveal out of it. Or when I can guess it so early on, it takes the reveal out of it. So that's why I was yeah. Anyway, so I did really enjoy this book. I had a really good time with it, and this is another book that I'll most of these audiobooks, either I wouldn't get copies for all physical copies for all the audiobooks, but I do want physical copies for a majority of them. So this one in particular, and I can't wait for the second book. So the next one, in 4th place, is My Grandfather the Master Detective by Masateru Konishi. And I'm finding this is another lit fic. This is a murder mystery lit fic book. And I'm finding with my mystery thriller stuff, I need something to be cozy mystery. And the things that kind of best fit that are murder mysteries, as weird as it sounds. Cozy mysteries, meaning it's you do have that aspect of calmness, and you're not always constantly going with the detective process. I do really like that. I was a huge Criminal Minds fan for a really long time. I do really like that process. But I hate what they're doing with Criminal Minds now. We're not talking about that. But I think part of why Criminal Minds led into my love of mystery thrillers and murder mysteries and solving that is because part of it was the actual solving of it and the procedural aspect of it and finding out who was doing it and why. So it's that was part of my enjoyment, but also part of it was, for Criminal Minds, seeing the team come together at the end of each episode, and also the fact, and I said I wasn't talking about this, but we're talking about it a little bit. Also, the fact that the Unsubs only lasted for one fucking episode, and then maybe 2 at most. And then maybe they would come back later, but it's they didn't last a whole fucking season. And this whole bullshit with Elias Voight, it's bullshit. And I hate Criminal Minds. Which I hate saying because I absolutely love Criminal Minds. And I like the idea of it. I love the old Criminal Minds pre-season 12. that's stretching a little bit. I would say like pre-season 8. And it's like, it got to a point for me, just to kind of like wrap up this Criminal Minds topic, like it got to a point for me where I felt like it became less about the team solving the crimes and more about putting the team through traumatic events just for the sake of shock value. And I feel like Reed is a perfect example about it, like My Baby Reed, perfect example. And then also Hodge, and Hodge to a lesser extent, but Rossi especially, like Rossi and Reed especially. Like with what happened with Reed going to prison, and because like Reed went through so fucking much, and it's like it was like one thing after the other for Reed. So it was just like, it got to a point where that started feeling like shock value rather than actual meaningful story building and plot building. And then with Rossi, they put him through the Gideon arc basically, where it's like, and it kind of felt like a snub at Gideon and at Manti Patinkin almost, because like it's like, oh, Rossi pushed through, Rossi like lasted through losing his wife in such a brutal manner, and like Hodge did to an extent. So it's like, it kind of felt like a snub at, especially for Rossi, like Rossi especially, him going through that and like still being at the BAU felt like a snub to Gideon and to Mandy Patinkin, because Mandy Patinkin, it got to a point for him where he just, the cases were too realistic for him, which I 100% agree. A lot of them were very too realistic, and were too close to home. And it's well, not necessarily personally close to home, but like it hit very close to what we see in reality. And that's why Mandy Patinkin left. And having Rossi go through that and still stay with the BAU, like, and a large part of this, why I feel like it was a snub to Mandy Patinkin and Gideon, was because not Mandy Patinkin, his character, Jason Gideon and David Rossi were the main ones to really push for behavioral analysis and starting the BAU. So it's like, it felt like a snap where it's like, oh, but Rossi made it through. Rossi still stuck with the BAU, whereas Gideon didn't. So it was just like, so anyway, all that to say, I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I felt like I needed to finish that thought. So it's like, going back to it all, like, I liked how the team always came together at the end, and you always got that bit of coziness at the end of the team connecting and the team being basically like a family. So I think that's where my love of like cozy murder mysteries came in. And the thing is like, I do like detective procedural stuff, because I remember like there was a time where I was watching Cold Case Files, the show, for so long, and then there was like another show that I think I was watching. So it was just like, I was watching this stuff, like true crime stuff. So it's like, I love the police procedural stuff. And I think for me, the reason why I could only handle Criminal Minds was because it was so realistic. And that's why I didn't watch any other crime shows, like SVU or any other Law and Orders or any other crime shows. But anyway, so back to My Grandfather the Master Detective. I gave this one, what did I give this one? I read it to 5 stars. And I absolutely love this one. And this is kind of like, it's kind of in the same vein of the Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop, where it's like, you have these individual set stories, but you have a grandfather and a granddaughter who are figuring out the whodunits, like who did it in this scenario. And I will say that the twist at the end of this, there's like one final story that's kind of been building up over the course of the multiple different stories. It's like, I did not see that coming, which, unlike with the Shattered Queen, where it's like with fantasy, you don't like the big reveals, you're gonna have it like for like a big plot point, whereas like murder mystery, it's like figuring out who is behind it. But it's like, I feel like this is like a good comparison, because with My Grandfather the Master Detective, there's like kind of like an overarching storyline, and then you have the individual plot points and then you have the main character kind of at the center of something. And sorry, I'm a little bit burpy today. And like the main characters, the female main character story, like her thing, who was on that, like I did not guess that, and I was just like, once it was revealed, I was like, oh my god. So it's like that. I think that's what makes a reveal, whether it's a fantasy or mystery or thriller. I think that's what makes the reveal so good, when you cannot guess it up until the last moment, and then you're like, oh my god, and then you think about it and you're like, that makes so much sense. Like, you don't, like, you notice the details, but you don't pick up on them until the reveal is done, and then you're thinking back about everything and you're like, I see it. there's the connected dots. So it's like, yeah. So that's My Grandfather the Master Detective. In third place is The Chateau on Sunset by Natasha Lester. And this one I rated like 4.5 stars. And I really enjoyed this one. The main reason why it was knocked down for me a little bit was because it is a Jane Eyre retelling set in like 1950s, 1960s Hollywood. And the main reason why it was like a little bit knocked down for me was because it's like, we know it's a Jane Eyre retelling because that's how it was marketed, but it was like, it felt like it was trying to be like a little too on the nose with being a Jane Eyre retelling, because in this world Jane Eyre exists, the book exists, and it's like, it was in the main character's library, it was her favorite book, it's something that she would quote a few times, and like, the mentions of it didn't happen a lot, but it happened enough times that it was noticeable and it got annoying. And overall, in like the 300 or so pages of the book, like, it wasn't that many times, but like I said, it was enough times to be like, okay, we get it, this is a Jane Eyre retelling and she likes Jane Eyre. So it's like, I still really enjoyed this one, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting to, given that it was a Jane Eyre retelling, and I'm not a big Jane Eyre person, but that's what knocked it down a little bit for me. So anyway, in second place is Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel, and I gave this one, did I give it 5 stars? 4.25 stars. Why did I give it 4.25? Okay, just because like I did drop it down because there were parts that dragged, and then parts, like, it was like a medium pace book. um I didn't have any slow paced books this month, so it was like more of a medium paced book, but it's like there were some parts of it that felt like dragged on way too much in comparison to the speed of the rest of the book. I really enjoyed this one, and I have not been giving words for these, I'm sorry. But all the books are listed down below in the description, so for any ones that you're more interested in that I did not give a blurb for, you can copy and paste it and search it up. Because at this point, I'm not going to record this part. So there's that. That's in second place, and I 100% agree with the placement of this one because I had a really good time. It was very beautifully told, and honestly, like, I would take this kind of a fantasy over most fantasies any freaking day. And then in first place, which leads into I'm in my Romantasy era, because I read The Shrouded Queen first, and then I read this one back to back, both of which are romantic fantasies, and I'm like, yes, these right here. The first book, I was listening to this at work and like kicking my feet up, like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. And then like mid listen to it, it was like midway through my workday, and I was like, oh my god, I love this book, and I have not been able to stop thinking about this book, which says a lot. Hopeless Necromantic by Shiloh Breyer. I cannot wait for the second book, which is Necromantic Getaway. I always want to say Necroromantic, but Hopeless Necromantic by Shiloh Breyer. I highly recommend the audiobook. It's dual narrated. This one is such a good book, and that feels weird saying for a romantasy because I tend to steer clear of romance. Well, I obviously haven't steered clear of romance in July. Let's see, how many were romance this month? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the 12. So close to half the books I read this month were romance. And it's like, it's not like I steer clear of fantasy romance or romance fantasy. It's just, I've talked about it before on my channel. Like, I never really like it when romance is the main plot. And for me, a large part of that is like, I get it, it's people's comfort zones, and I will never drag on that. It's just, for me personally, it's like, it's how the tropes are handled in a lot of romance books. And this one, it does have some tropes in it, but it's like, I like it. I like the way it handles the tropes in this. Like, it's like, this one is 100% yearning man, and I'm like, yes, I'm here for it. And like, so it has like yearning man. It has the one bed trope in a unique way, and then it has. Would I say it's like? I would say he falls first, she falls hard, he falls harder. So it's like, that's the one trope with like the who falls first, who falls harder. So it's like, he falls first, she falls hard, he falls harder. And it's like, they were so cute, and like, it wasn't like, I think part of what bothers me with a lot of romance too is that oftentimes it's like insta love, and then it's like you have the third act breakup, and it's like, like the only feasible way I can see a third act breakup working out is if there's a second book along the way, or another book, or if it's like in the middle of like, or if it's like the second book of a trilogy, if there's like another book coming after this one. Because it's like, if it is a standalone, or if it's the second book, the third act breakup does not logically make sense to me, because it's like, you're breaking up only to get back together within the last third of the book. It's like, that's too quick. And it's like, also, there are certain things here where it's like, okay, why did you break up with each other first off to get back together so quickly so that you can have your happily ever after, or happy for now? It's like, why did you break up with each other? Why wasn't there more of a fight about this? And again, like, that's where, for me, it doesn't logically make sense to have a third act breakup if there is not another book following it. Because it's like, there needs to be more time. And it's like, part of it's like, okay, this is romance. It's not supposed to be fully realistic. It's not supposed to be fully logical, which is like, okay, I'll give you that. And a lot of people use romance to escape. And it's like, yeah, I get that. I use fantasy to escape. I use historical fiction to escape. And it's like, a lot of the romance books that I do like are a means of escape for me. It's just like, when romance is the main genre of the book and the main plot of the book, it's like, it really needs to fight for itself for me to really enjoy it. And it's like, Hopeless Necromantic did it. And like I said, I was like, my feet up, and I absolutely love this book. So it makes sense. It fits for the first place book of July. And I will probably say, I'm gonna say this now. This is probably within my top 5, if not my top 3 of 2026, because like, I loved it that much. And I feel like they acted like adult. Like, I think part of it too is that oftentimes, like, whether it's YA or adult romance, spicy or not, it's like, it'll be like, oh, they're adults, and it's like, they don't act like fucking adults. And it's like, with Sikras, for Hopeless Necromantic, like, there are moments where he is like stupid as fuck. And like, you can be so much smarter about this. And his friend Benjamin, it's like, Benjamin does not hold his punches when it comes to giving Sikras a piece of his mind. So it's like, there are moments where Sikras is so fucking stupid, and I'm just like, she likes you, you idiot. But it's like, he still acts like an adult in terms of taking responsibility. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I will be the first to say that sometimes adults do not have their shit together. I do not always have my shit together. I'm almost 30. And it's like, that's so weird to say. How old am I going to be this year? Okay, I know how old I'm going to be this year. But it's like, I'm almost 30. And it's like, there are often times where I do not have my shit together, and when I don't know how to identify certain feelings. So it's like I can't expect that of the characters, but at the same time, it's like I can't fully expect that of the characters, but I can expect it within reason, because it's like when like oftentimes like it's why I hate the miscommunication trope, because it's like if you're a teenager, if you're 18 or younger, fine. If you're like 19 or younger, fine. Miscommunication happens because like you're still figuring out your hormones, your brain is still developing. Like female brains, I think it's like age brains aren't fully formed until between 22 and 25 years old. I think it's like 25 for men and like 22 for women. So it's like if you're like 20 years old or under, it's like okay, yeah, miscommunication, all you want, and then like talk it out, like talk to your friends, talk to your parents. But it's like with adults, in my mind, it's like miscommunication does not happen here, which I'm so fucking thankful of because I hate that trope. And it's like with adults, it's like okay, fine, take a moment to step back, figure out what you're feeling about it, figure out what you want to say, and then sit down and be like, okay, we need to talk. Which happens in this. Like, it's like, okay, we do need to talk about this. And it also happens in the audiobook that I'm reading now. It's a historical romance. And it's like, we need to talk about this. And it happens in the Hopeless Necromantic too, where it's like, we do need to talk about everything. We need to lay out our cards. And it's like, if you need to like go to your friend to talk about it, saying like, hey, I really like this person, and if something happened, we got into an argument about X, Y, and Z, it's like, you don't have to say there's been a miscommunication. You can just say like, because oftentimes we don't know that the miscommunication has happened. It's like, hey, we got into a fight about X, Y, and Z, this is what happened, and this is what led up to it. And it's like, your friend or your parent or your sibling, whoever it is you choose to go to, it's like, there's a little bit of a miscommunication with this, but actually it's like, it's because of a lie and like not being told the full truth. But it's like, it's handled in a way where it's like, hey, like again, like I said, it's like they say like, we need to talk about this, let's talk about this, we need to work through this together. So it's like that kind of a thing where it's like they take a moment to talk to other people if they can. But it's like, even if they can't, it's like they come to each other saying like, hey, we need to talk, this is what happened, I didn't mean to do X, Y, and Z, I didn't mean to say it, it came out, and this is why it came out, just not to excuse it. But it's like, I don't know, like this one, the tropes that it has one bad tropes, sort of. It has slight miscommunication, and they do get together sort of in the first book. Excuse me. So I'm happy about that. And then the second book is more focused on, or will be more focused on, them developing a relationship and fully defeating that guy. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I will stop yammering on about this because I feel like I talked too much now. So with all of that said, the question that I have for you, oh, my eye is bothering me. With all that said, the question that I have for you is, what are your top 3 books for July? If you didn't read through 3 books, tell me your top book or books for July. Or tell me the book that you read this month. And with all of that said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.